You might already know it. It might even seem basic, but the results are out of this world. It's something you may have known all along. Simple, yes, but its power? Truly remarkable.
Writing letters to your younger self. What if I told you that taking just a few minutes to write a letter to your younger self could reduce regret, heal emotional wounds, and even improve your brain health? It sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? But that's the magic of it. We spend so much time moving forward, planning, adjusting, coping. Rarely do we pause to look back in a meaningful, loving way. In this video, we're diving deep into the remarkable power of this quiet yet transformative habit. You'll discover how writing these letters opens the door to reflection, clarity, peace, and maybe even a little laughter. And the best part? This practice is completely free. You don't need anything fancy, just a pen, some paper, and the willingness to be honest with yourself. Whether you've lived 60 years or 80, you have a treasure chest of wisdom that deserves to be acknowledged. Stay with me until the very end, because I'll share one key insight that's so simple you might already know it. It might even seem basic, but the results, they're out of this world. Let's begin this beautiful journey, one page, one memory, one healing word at a time. Why this works. Writing to your younger self does more than stir up old memories. It activates healing. When you sit down to write, your brain lights up. You're not just remembering, you're reprocessing. Studies in neuroscience show that expressive writing helps organize thoughts, regulate emotions, and reduce stress. And when you make yourself the main character, when you speak to your younger self with kindness, you rewrite the emotional tone of your story. That doesn't mean changing facts. It means changing the way those facts live inside you. So many of us carry unspoken pain, regrets, what-ifs, unanswered questions. Writing a letter is like opening a window in a stuffy room. You let light in, you breathe, you shift from being a victim of your past to being a compassionate witness of it. That shift is powerful, especially later in life. Our brains still grow and adapt even into our 80s. By reflecting with purpose, we strengthen those neural pathways that bring peace instead of anxiety, gratitude instead of guilt. When you write, you're not escaping your past, you're reshaping your relationship with it. And that, my friend, can change everything. So don't underestimate this simple act. It's more than memory, it's medicine. The first letter I ever wrote. I remember it vividly. A gray afternoon, a cup of lukewarm tea beside me, and a pen that trembled slightly in my hand. I wasn't sure where to begin. What do you say to someone you haven't seen in decades, especially when that someone is you? I started with, "Dear 16-year-old me," and the words came slowly at first. I told her she was enough, that her voice mattered, that she didn't need to earn love by being perfect. I apologized for the times I doubted her pain. I reminded her that heartbreak wouldn't destroy her, that she would learn, grow, and love again. I wrote until the page was soaked with tears, and when I was done, I felt lighter, as though I'd just set down a backpack I didn't know I'd been carrying. That letter didn't solve everything, but it began something. A gentle rewiring of how I viewed my younger self. Not with judgment, but with tenderness. And tenderness changes things. It softens the hard edges. It lets us forgive ourselves. That first letter didn't just reach into the past, it reached into me, and it planted something small but powerful. Peace. Why older adults find this especially healing. There's a reason this practice resonates deeply with older adults. After 60, life naturally brings reflection. We find ourselves reviewing moments from long ago, decisions we made, people we loved, paths we took or didn't take. Some of those memories shine, others ache. Writing to your younger self provides a safe and sacred space to make sense of it all. It's not about rewriting history. It's about giving our younger selves the understanding and compassion we may not have received at the time. Think of all you survived. Think of the strength it took to get here. When you write from your current perspective, you're offering wisdom that only years of living can bring. You're saying, I see what you went through, and I honor it. For many people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, this is transformative. It's a way to close emotional loops, to soothe old sorrows, and to reclaim lost parts of ourselves. Some call it a spiritual exercise. Others say it feels like a deep exhale after years of holding their breath. Whatever words you use, it's healing. And healing doesn't have an expiration date. You're never too old to offer yourself grace. It's not about regret, it's about release. Let's address a common fear. Won't writing to my younger self just make me dwell on regret? It's a fair question, but here's the truth. This practice isn't about regret, it's about release. There's a big difference. Regret holds you hostage to the past. Release sets you free from it. When you write, you're not blaming yourself. You're giving yourself the benefit of the doubt. You're saying, I understand why you did what you did. You were doing the best you could with what you knew. That kind of self-compassion is rare, and it's transformative. We're so used to being hard on ourselves, especially for the things we can't go back and change. But what if we offered grace instead? What if we wrote not to scold our past selves, but to comfort them? Imagine how different your internal world could feel. More peaceful, more forgiving. That's the power of this practice. It helps you move from shame to softness, from pain to perspective. You don't need to forget the past, you just need to meet it with new eyes. And when you do, something beautiful happens. The tight grip of regret loosens, and in its place, you find freedom. Start simple. Let's begin with simplicity. Writing a letter to your younger self doesn't have to be complicated or poetic. It just has to be real. Start with the words, Dear Younger Me, and allow your heart to guide the rest. You might choose a specific age, maybe when you turned 18 or 30 or even 55. Pick a version of you that still tugs at your heart. What would you want that version of you to hear? What comfort, truth, or encouragement would you offer? Begin there. Don't worry about grammar, punctuation, or eloquence. This letter isn't for anyone else's eyes. It's yours. Sometimes the most healing words are the simplest. I forgive you. You were brave. You are loved. Think of the letter as a warm hand reaching back through time. You don't need to relive every moment. Just be present with the emotions. And if it feels too big, take breaks. Breathe. Writing even a paragraph can begin to release decades of weight. This isn't about reliving your life. It's about reclaiming it, one sentence at a time. So give yourself permission to begin gently, quietly, honestly. That's where healing starts. A letter to my 25-year-old self. Let me share a moment from my own experience. I once wrote a letter to my 25-year-old self. She was bright, eager, exhausted, trying to be everything to everyone. The letter started simply, "You don't need to prove your worth." I reminded her that rest isn't failure, that saying no is a full sentence, and that her dreams mattered, not just the ones that looked good on paper, but the ones buried deep inside. I told her it was okay to not have it all figured out. I wrote about how hard she tried, how often she doubted herself, and how deeply she loved, even when it wasn't returned. By the time I finished the letter, I was crying and smiling at the same time, because I had forgotten how much she endured. Writing to her helped me appreciate not just how far I've come, but how much strength I had back then, even when I didn't see it. Maybe there's a part of your past that needs that same recognition, that same encouragement. Writing to that version of yourself might be exactly what you need to remember just how brave you've always been. The science behind it. You might be wondering, how can writing a letter really help? The answer lies in the brain. Neuroscience has shown that expressive writing strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for emotional regulation, decision-making, and memory processing. When you write to your younger self, your brain isn't just replaying old memories, it's reinterpreting them. You're essentially teaching your brain a new way to experience those moments through compassion, not criticism. This process helps reduce anxiety, boost mood, and even improve sleep. For older adults, this kind of reflection has added benefits. It sharpens cognitive clarity and enhances emotional resilience. In fact, studies show that reflective writing can support neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to adapt and change even into our 80s. That means your brain is still learning and healing with every word you write. But this isn't just about science, it's about soul. When you put pen to paper, you're telling yourself, I matter. My story matters. And that internal affirmation has a lasting effect. You shift from being a passive observer of your past to an active participant in your healing. So yes, writing a letter might seem simple, but your brain and your heart know it's anything but. If you're watching this far, it says something beautiful about you. You're open, you're curious, and maybe, just maybe, you're ready to begin healing. So let's pause together. Take a deep breath. If any part of you has been moved so far, if you've already started thinking about which version of yourself you'd write to, type 1 in the comments below. That little number means you're joining a quiet but powerful movement. It means you're showing up for yourself in a way that maybe you never have before. And that's brave. That's healing. Sometimes we don't realize how much we've been holding in until we start to let it out. And a single moment of reflection can open the door to years of peace. So type 1. Let it be your small but mighty declaration. And know that you're not alone in this journey. Others are walking this path too, learning to forgive themselves, to speak gently to their past, to breathe a little easier. Let this moment be the beginning of something honest. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need the willingness to begin. And you're already doing that right now. A letter to my teenage self. Teenage years. So much noise, confusion, and aching to belong. I once sat down to write to my teenage self, the girl with big feelings and a quiet voice. I told her, "You're not too much. You're not too sensitive. You're not broken." I reminded her that being emotional wasn't a flaw, it was a strength. That the loneliness she felt wasn't because something was wrong with her, but because she was growing into someone different, someone deep. I apologized for the times she felt invisible, for the moments she felt like she didn't measure up, and I thanked her for surviving, for dreaming, for continuing on even when she didn't know where the road would lead. Writing that letter was like looking at an old photograph and finally seeing the girl in it with compassion, not critique. If your teenage years still hold pain, or even if they hold memories you cherish, writing to that version of yourself can be incredibly powerful. It can reconnect you with your courage, your creativity, your hope. You don't need to relive everything. Just reach back. Speak kindly, and let that younger version of you feel what maybe they never got to feel, fully seen. You can write more than one. Here's a truth I learned quickly. One letter is rarely enough. Because we aren't just one version of ourselves, we are layers, chapters. Each part of our journey deserves its own moment of tenderness. You might write to the child who was afraid, to the young parent who felt overwhelmed, to the person you were during a tough year, or to the joyful version of yourself who needs to be celebrated again. These aren't just letters, they're reunions, a way to acknowledge all the selves you've been. And each one of them holds something sacred. The act of writing multiple letters becomes a conversation with your life. It deepens your compassion, widens your perspective, and invites a new kind of peace. Think of it like weaving a quilt, each letter a patch, stitched with care, warmth, and truth. Together, they create something beautiful, a fuller understanding of who you are and how far you've come. So don't stop after one. Keep writing. Keep discovering. There is no limit to the healing this can bring. Because every version of you, young or old, deserves to be heard, honored, and held with love. What to do with the letters? Once you've written your letter, the next question often is, now what? There's no single answer, and that's the beauty of it. This is your healing, your process. Some people fold their letters and place them in a keepsake box. Others tuck them into journals or seal them in envelopes labeled with the age they were written to. I know someone who stores hers in a folder called For My Heart. You might choose to read your letter aloud to yourself. That can be incredibly moving. hearing your own voice offer kindness across time. Or you might decide to burn the letter as a ritual of release, watching the words rise like smoke into freedom. Some keep them, some shred them, and some share them with loved ones. There is no wrong way. Do what feels right to your soul. The point isn't what happens to the letter, it's what happens to you. The moment you put pen to paper, you've started something sacred. Whether you revisit it daily or never read it again, it served its purpose. It brought light to a part of you that needed it. That in itself is more than enough. Writing brings us home. There's something quietly sacred about writing a letter to your younger self. It's not just about words, it's about returning. Returning to a version of you that was doing the best they could. A version that might have felt lost or alone or unsure. Writing lets you revisit them, not to fix or change them, but to walk beside them, now with the wisdom and compassion you carry today. It's like coming home to yourself. When we write, we stop running, we stop hiding, we stop pretending that the past didn't shape us. And instead, we acknowledge it with open hands, with a soft heart. Writing makes us whole again, not by erasing what happened, but by embracing it. Every scar, every joy, every lesson. Each letter is a lantern, lighting the path back to the truth of who you are. You've carried so much for so long, but you don't have to carry it alone anymore. Let the page hold some of it. Let your own words cradle your younger self in love, in grace, in presence. Because in doing so, you come back not just to your past, but to your power. And that is everything. Tips for getting started. If you're ready to try writing your own letter, but don't know how to begin, let me offer a few gentle tips. First, set the scene. Create a quiet, comfortable space. Light a candle. Play soft music. Hold a photo of your younger self if it helps. This isn't just about writing, it's about remembering, feeling, and connecting. Second, don't worry about structure or grammar. Let the words come naturally. You're not writing for anyone else. This is your sacred space. Third, be gentle. This is a letter of kindness, not judgment. Speak to yourself with the same love you'd offer a dear friend. If it's too emotional, take a break. You can always come back. And fourth, there is no deadline. Some letters take 10 minutes, others 10 days. That's okay. What matters is that you're being honest, that you're showing up. Writing these letters is like opening a window to your soul. Let the air in, let the light in, let yourself breathe. Whether it's a few sentences or a few pages, it counts, it heals, and it lasts. So take a deep breath, pick up your pen, and start where you are. You're exactly where you need to be. Stories from others. Over the years, I've heard from so many people who've written letters to their younger selves. Their stories are tender, raw, and powerful. One man in his 70s wrote to his 10-year-old self. He apologized for not protecting him during a time of bullying. He told that little boy, "You were brave, even when no one saw it." A woman in her 60s wrote to her 30-year-old self after a painful divorce. She said, "Thank you for surviving, for showing up for the kids even when your heart was broken." Another woman, widowed for years, wrote to her newly married self, saying, "You loved well, you did your best, and that's enough." Each story carried a theme: love, forgiveness, acceptance. And every single letter brought healing, not just for the past, but for the present. Because writing isn't just about memory, it's about reclaiming your truth. It's about holding your own hand and saying, "You did good." Maybe you'll find your own version of that story. Maybe your words will be the ones that finally give voice to something you've held in silence. Whatever you write, know this: your story matters. And when you write it, you give it the dignity it deserves. How this can help future generations. Here's something you might not expect. Writing to your younger self doesn't just help you, it can help others too. Some people choose to share their letters with children or grandchildren. It becomes a kind of emotional legacy, a way of passing on more than just memories. You're sharing perspective, wisdom, humanity. Imagine your grandchild, someday feeling lost, reading your words, "I once felt that way too, and I made it through." That's powerful. It bridges generations. It reminds them that struggles are part of life, and so is growth. One woman shared her letters with her adult daughter. It opened up conversations they had never been able to have before. Tears were shed, hugs were exchanged, and healing happened across time and space. You don't have to be a writer to make an impact. You just have to be real, honest, brave. These letters become a mirror for others, showing them what resilience looks like, what tenderness sounds like. And when you give someone that gift, you're not just healing your past, you're lighting a path forward. So consider sharing, or save your letters somewhere safe. Let them be a part of the story your family carries forward. The big takeaway. So here it is, the big insight I promised at the beginning. You might already know it. It might even seem basic, but the results, they're out of this world. Here it is. Healing happens when we listen to ourselves. That's it. When we stop criticizing, stop rushing, stop ignoring our emotions, and instead sit down and listen. With patience, with love, with truth. Writing letters to your younger self isn't magic, but it's close. It opens doors that have long been shut. It brings light into dark corners. It invites peace into places where pain used to live. It doesn't change the past, but it transforms how the past lives inside you. And that transformation, that's where freedom begins. The freedom to forgive, to feel proud, to rest, to be whole. So don't underestimate the power of this practice. It's gentle, but it's deep. It's simple, but it's profound. And the best part, it's always available to you. Anytime, anywhere. One letter at a time, one moment of kindness at a time. This is your story, and you get to rewrite the way it feels, starting now. If you felt moved by this video, I want to invite you to take action. First, Type 2 in the comments below and let me know what age you'll write to first. Was it a childhood memory? Your 20s? Your 50s? I'd love to know. And second, please hit the subscribe button, give this video a like, and share it with someone who could use a little healing today. You never know whose life you might touch. Maybe they've been carrying a silent burden for years, and your share helps them finally begin to let go. That's powerful. That's community. And remember, your story matters. Your voice matters. You matter. There's no deadline on healing, no expiration date on self-kindness. Whether you write your letter tonight, next week, or a year from now, know that the door is always open. And if you ever need a gentle nudge, come back to this video. Let it remind you that it's never too late to speak softly to the person you once were. You have wisdom, you have heart, and now you have a pen. Let it write something beautiful. I'm so glad you joined me. Until next time, take care and write with love.